your line if you are not speaking. Identify yourself and your organization before you speak. And if you are on the phone and logged in via web, just turn off your computer speaker so we don't have interference. Press *6 to unmute your line if you are online or on a phone call, and the chat is reserved for council members. So with that, do we need to do a roll call, or do you have everybody identified?
Should do a roll call.
Okay, so I am here. Andrew Yang.
I'm present.
Jolene Calla.
I'm here.
Joshua Brooker.
Present.
Robin Rothermel. Gloria Velasquez. Okay. Roll call is done. Did everybody have a chance to look at the meeting minutes that were sent out earlier today? Take a look at those, and when you've had enough time to review them, I will take a motion to approve the meeting minutes as true, correct, and accurate, recording the actions, events, actions, and details of the October 1st, 2024 public meetings of the Pennsylvania Health Insurance Exchange Authority Advisory Council.
Hi, Karen. It's Jolene Calla from HAP, and I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Jolene. Do I have a second?
I'm happy to second.
Thank you, Joshua. Is there any further discussion or corrections to the minutes as presented? All in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The meeting minutes carry as presented. Okay, this is now the opportunity for public comment. In the absence of official policy relating to public comment at council meetings and to ensure the orderly progress of today's meeting, all comments should be directed to me. It should be limited to no more than 5 minutes in duration. Questions asked at the council to me may or may not be addressed at the meeting. So is there anybody from the public that has a comment? Okay. No comments, so we will move on to Devin, who has a new member to welcome.
Yes, thank you. So at the last advisory council, we had Kenton Porter as a representative from the Pennsylvania Broker Association, who that entity under Penny's founding law has the ability to appoint a member. That organization has now designated Joshua Brooker as their designee. So wanted to welcome Joshua to the advisory council, and I didn't know if you wanted to take a minute just to introduce yourself to the group.
Well, oddly enough, I think I'm returning at this point, so I kind of gave my my spiel last time, but I appreciate you guys welcoming me back and look forward to working with everyone.
Welcome, Joshua. Again.
Welcome back.
Devin, do you want to move on to open enrollment 2025?
Yep, absolutely. So we have a couple of items we wanted to talk with you all about today. The first one is recapping open enrollment 2025. And then we wanted to talk about a very timely topic related to the CMS proposed rule, some contingency planning for the enhanced tax credits related to the federal action needed there. And those are really our two key topics for today. But first, wanted to give a recap of open enrollment, which ended on January 15th of this year, so about 2 months ago. We had record enrollment for this year, hitting almost 500,000 Pennsylvanians enrolled. So we are really excited to see that. And you can see in this graph how that enrollment has really taken off over the past couple of years. The enhanced premium tax credits that made coverage more affordable through the marketplace than ever before. Those were put in during 2021. And then I'll also note that a key factor in driving some of this enrollment was also the unwinding of the redeterminations that were made on Medicaid between 2023 and 2024. That also drove a lot of enrollment as well. So overall, we have seen 47% more enrollment since when the enhanced tax credits went into place in 2021. So that's, a really significant number, and we'll talk more about how that's really driving our concern around federal action needed to extend those enhanced tax credits at the end of this year. But again, we saw the most enrollments that we've ever had in Marketplace history. As of this open enrollment, and our current number remains the highest it's ever been. We had a very smooth open enrollment and auto renewal process that helped drive that as well. We did see, as we'll talk a bit about, that our outreach efforts, we targeted those to certain areas in Pennsylvania, and we were able to lift enrollment a bit in those areas. We also had a couple of regions where there was more disruption to the coverage, and we saw lower enrollment in those areas. So on the next slide, just wanted to talk a little bit more about the open enrollment process. So our focus always during open enrollment is new enrollees and retaining existing enrollees. So on the new enrollee front, we again looked at taking our successful tactics from OE 2024 and broaden those to more counties across Southeast PA and also more in the western side of the state. And we also increased outreach events by assisters. The growth in those targeted areas outpaced overall increases by about 1 percentage point. So we saw some lift there. On the retaining side, we really focused on our auto renewal process and focused on educating about cost increases and other market changes. So we successfully auto renewed nearly all of our enrollees. We had a higher, for the small portion that we did not auto renew, we were able to keep more of them this year than we were last year as we continue to refine our outreach communications to consumers. And we generally had higher, again, retention of our 2024 enrollees into 2025. This third bullet I want to mention because we think it does foreshadow a bit going into this coming year and the potential for the enhanced premium tax credits to not be extended, what could happen. So we had a couple of highly impacted groups. There were groups that hadn't reconciled their tax credits on their tax returns, so we had to turn off their tax credits. There were also a group, again, that had more premium disruptions because of how the benchmark plan worked in some of the western side of the state, which I'll talk about in a minute. For that highly impacted group that saw a lot of premium increase, we saw about 60% of those make updates and retain coverage, about 20% disenrolled, and 20% did not act. Now, we think that last group perhaps was not aware that their premiums increased significantly. And so we are closely tracking that population because we think they're at higher risk for non-pay termination. For example, maybe their premium doubled or tripled. They didn't look at their notices or are not aware of that premium increase. And so potentially that could fall out. Some may stay in that coverage, may say, I can pay that, I'm going to stay covered. Others, that might turn out after the 3-month grace period into a non-pay termination. So we'll know more about that at the end of April. And I think that how that group, that last 20% breaks down will also be indicative for the premium disruptions that could happen later this year. But I do think that 20% that disenrolled is important because it does show, I think, what we're anticipating to be a 20 to 30% disenrollment if the enhanced tax credits are not extended. And I also wanted to mention that we had rating areas 2 and 5, which are sort of a north to south corridor in the western part of the state, kind of in between Center County and Pittsburgh. In those counties, the benchmark plan that decides how much tax credit someone gets was lower. There was a new entrant into the market. And because it was lower, it kind of brought down the tax credits generally and the purchasing power for people in that region. So we did see lower retention rates in those regions and lower growth despite significantly more outreach efforts for that population. So just to show how this looks on a map, tying all these pieces together on the next slide, you can see that where we focus more of our outreach and marketing and strategies was sort of that kind of collar around Philadelphia in the southeast and sort of through that 222 corridor. And then, the darker purples are really beating the average increase, which was 14%. And you can see that we beat that a bit in Erie and in Allegheny County and a couple of those regions. And then you can kind of see that north to south corridor between in like that western central part of the state where net enrollment was much lower. So that's a combination of we didn't retain people as much because of those premium disruptions that caused increased costs for consumers. And we think that also that disruption, the general potential just changes in that market also led to not getting as much new pickup as well. One of our most common ways that people find out about Penny is word of mouth. So if there is negative word of mouth, we do think that that can have an impact on enrollment as well. So I wanted to provide this brief overview of open enrollment. Any questions? And I think there was one in the chat, so I wanted to take a minute now to catch up on any questions.
Yeah, Devin. So the navigator question, I think obviously probably is closer to the proposed rule and some of the things happening on the Hill. But the other one is a very big concern that I have around plan year 26 open enrollment, which, historically I've gotten very frustrated with the fact that the letters that go out to consumers are often very different from the reality. If a plan is saying, hey, your gross premium is going up by $100, and we know that your tax credit for this current year is $200, so you're probably going to see a net premium of X. Those letters that go out year over year kind of assume that the APTC is going to be somewhat stable in that market. Well, I don't know if Penny or anyone internally has been talking about if the enhanced APTCs are kind of clawed back, if there's any wording that would go in those letters that sometimes consumers do just take that letter as fact, and ultimately with the proposed rule and with the potential that we have to kind of pivot with the enhanced tax credits, I don't want a consumer to make an assumption based upon an error in a letter and then wind up being stuck in a plan where either they can't afford to make the premium or there might have been something else that was more suited to their needs.
Yeah, that's a great point, and thank you for bringing it up. And we are planning to talk a little bit more as well in the contingency planning section around communication, but that is something that it's a great point around the insurer notices and making sure that their content is aligned as well. And when we talk about the timing, it's going to start to get very challenging because I think it's looking more likely at this point that we will not have an answer on whether they'll be extended or not until very close to open enrollment potentially. So could be wrong on that, but that's sort of, just given the recent movement that we're seeing with the budget, I think that's looking more likely. So I think that will be even more paramount to make sure we're really aligned with insurers, even if it kind of starts messing with some of those typical timelines. I think accuracy will be the priority over timeliness necessarily in that situation. To your navigator question, no, the federal funding for navigators does not have an impact on Pennsylvania. Being a state-based marketplace, we control our own budget. We allocate the use of our user fees consistent with board direction and approval. So we are actually slated to work a lot of changes to that sister contract right now. It's currently under the process of becoming a new contract that would actually extend our assistor services across the state in a more consistent way. So we are under no impact or obligation to decrease the funding in line with federal funding. That is a state decision. And we are moving forward as we were with our plan that we put in place last year for the assister program.
Thank you.
All right, so shifting gears a little bit, there are, coming off of this open enrollment, record enrollment, it feels great to see more and more Pennsylvanians covered. But the environment is shifting quite a bit. So there's sort of two sets of major changes that we see coming up. One was in the proposed rule that was released last week, had a lot of provisions that will impact Penny, specifically the state-based marketplaces, and then also, as you mentioned, the enhanced tax credit. So the rest of the session is really focused on these two policy items that could really drastically change the environment in Penny and potentially reverse some of the progress that we have made. So going into the proposed rule, I'd say we were very struck by the limitations on state flexibility that are really inconsistent with the history of this rule, of this program. I worked in CMS for the first 8 or 9 years of this program. And, again, this is the amount of limitations on state-based marketplaces is, in my mind, a bit unprecedented. Usually there's much more deference given. So we wanted to talk through some of the provisions one by one, but also in general, I think from our perspective, really wanting in our comments to emphasize state flexibility, but wanted to sort of talk through what's in here, talk with you all about the impacts, and get your feedback on anything that you find particularly concerning or want to highlight as we walk through these. So to do that, I'm going to turn it over to David Thompson, who is our Director of Policy.
Thanks, Devin. So as Devin mentioned, the Trump administration released its marketplace proposed rule on March 10th, 2025, the Marketplace Integrity and Affordability Proposed Rule. Ostensibly, the goal of the rule is to address what the administration deems fraud, waste, and abuse around improper enrollments, and throughout asserts that eligibility and enrollment rules have led to this point and have caused adverse selection in ways that go against the original aims of the Affordable Care Act. Admittedly, the rule admits that the administration understands that hundreds of thousands of people millions of people could potentially lose coverage as a result of this rule. But CMS asserts that it's worth it in the name of program integrity. So I'm going to go through some of those policies that we believe would have the biggest impact on Penny, and those that we were likely to comment on or thinking of commenting on. So I'll go through those. This is not an exhaustive list, but we are going to try to kind of give a good summary of what's going on in this rule and how we think it'll impact us. So we can kind of segment this into different sections. So on the enrollment front, kind of what jumps out immediately is that the proposed rule would limit the open enrollment period to November 1st through December 15th. Unlike the first Trump administration, not only would this be imposed for the federally facilitated marketplace or healthcare.gov, it would be imposed on state-based marketplaces as well. So our open enrollment period has always been November 1st through January 15th. Under this rule, we would be required to limit open enrollment to December 15th. There are tens of thousands of people who every year come in between December 16th and January 15th and sign up for coverage. Many of these are the new customers or they're current enrollees who maybe didn't understand that their plans were changing, the premiums were changing. They get their first bill in January. This gives them an opportunity to still come in and change plans to the one that best suits them. So we believe and have always believed that month of open enrollment between the January 1st deadline and January 15th is extremely important, especially to bring new customers in, including younger, healthier individuals who benefit the risk pool. Concerningly, it also would require it basically withhold $5 of advanced premium tax credits or financial help for enrollees who are auto-renewed into a $0 premium plan, who do not actively come into the marketplace and basically reconfirm that they're eligible for that plan. So we have, auto renewals is every year form the bulk of our enrollment for the next year. And we are required to, under guarantee renewability, we are required to renew people and as much as we can, keep people in the same plan year over year unless they decide to change it. Even if an individual's eligibility has not changed, this would require them to take action or have a $5 premium that would basically be there until they were to confirm that they were eligible for that plan. Kevin used the word unprecedented. It applies here. This has never been done before in this space. One thing that we've instituted, the Biden administration provided kind of updated the re-enrollment hierarchies to allow exchanges to auto-renew enrollees from bronze to silver plans, as long as the premiums between bronze and silver stayed the same. This proposed rule would eliminate that option. Right now, we estimate that impacts about 1,000 customers who go from a bronze plan to the same net premium silver plan. So it benefits some people, not a huge impact, but this would remove that flexibility for exchanges. It also, one of the COVID era SEPs that came into being with the American, with oh man, I'm blanking out the ARPA, federal legislation during COVID-19 was a special enrollment period for low-income enrollees with household income at or below 150%. Thank you. Thanks, Josh. American Rescue Plan. Yes, of course. For household with income at or below 150% of the federal poverty level. Since the American Rescue Plan came to be, we have instituted a monthly special enrollment period for folks who fall into this income bucket, generally between the Medicaid threshold income at 138% of poverty to 150% of poverty. That we estimate that about 25,000 households enroll in coverage every or did in 2024 use this SEP to enroll in coverage. And while it's a small sliver, it definitely gives people who maybe their income fluctuates month to month, year to year. It gives them peace of mind that that they have a place on the federal on our market to enroll in coverage. So this would, if finalized, that would be eliminated. Kind of shifting gears more towards the eligibility and coverage section of the proposed rule. You may recall the Biden administration for 2025 basically reinstituted the failure to file and reconcile requirement. But in a departure from how it was done in prior years, prior to COVID, it allowed basically individuals they could fail to file and reconcile for 2 years before having APTC removed. If finalized, this rule would kind of remove that almost 1 year grace period and enforce the requirement that an individual no longer be eligible for tax credits for the upcoming plan year if they are found to have failed to file and reconcile for just 1 year. Now, of course, we want people to file and reconcile every year. It's required by law. One of the issues that we found year over year is the IRS is not always up to date in terms of filing tax returns. We can imagine that might be a problem this year moving forward. It was certainly this requirement was suspended during COVID because IRS was really far behind. But even in normal, in quote unquote normal years, you know, these people file their taxes. That's not always updated in real time. So someone may have filed, but our system will show that they haven't, and so they're not eligible for tax credit. So that 1 year will, you know, we anticipate that having an impact on thousands more penny customers, especially those who want to comply, but for whatever reason either aren't able to, or system wide are you know, the system is not up to date. So we anticipate several thousand additional Pennsylvanians will lose APTC as a result of this. Similarly, this rule would allow insurers to require payment of past due premiums for prior coverage before allowing the customer to effectuate new coverage. So there's no limit to the look back period that this could apply to, which is a departure from previous years where this was allowed. So for instance, if I'm enrolled with insurer A, I have in 2020, 2023, I was terminated for non-payment because of a $35 premium payment that I didn't make. If I come in and try to enroll with that same insurer for April 2025, or whenever this rule is finalized, the insurer could say, well, in addition to the premium you have for coverage moving forward, you have to pay that past due premium from several years ago. Another significant burden to people who who are trying to get back into coverage. And then it also the Biden administration in the 2026 Notice of Benefit and Payment Parameters provided additional flexibilities for insurers to accept binder payments to effectuate coverage from customers who did not pay all of their gross premium, or all the premium due, a percentage of the overall gross premium, instead of just looking at the net premium. So would allow people who didn't make a de minimis amount of payment be able to enroll into coverage. Doesn't hold them harmless for, they still have to pay at some point, but at least to effectuate coverage, it gave insurers the ability to say, okay, up to $5, you can effectuate coverage even if you haven't paid X amount. This reverses that. This will not impact our market, as we haven't made any changes to because of that, but it does take away insurer flexibility there. Next slide.
So maybe we take a break here and just see if there's any questions, discussion on these items before going to the second slide.
My only question was whether or not you guys can send over your comment letter whenever you submit it, that you can share a copy of it with the members here on the call.
Yeah, certainly. And I think, Josh, I think it was you who raised just a comment around the $5 one. I mean, I think we'd be interested in just anyone's thoughts on or experiences with any of these provisions. I don't know, Josh, if you wanted to add more around your concern there.
Well, other states, like New Mexico, their exchange has a minimum premium requirement year over year. That's one thing, but when we're talking about zero premium being renewed at $5 a month, and again, if it's not communicated properly with the consumer, the concern is the sheer number of individuals that auto renewed. I think it was 280,000, something like that at the state level. If a large portion of our constituents that are enrolled are on a plan that's zero premium, and they don't touch an application, they're not going to make the binder payment. So I don't know if even if that does go into place, if we can have more grace on timeliness of a binder, because yes, they did limit, the open enrollment period, and they're limiting which definition of paid current is allowed. But I don't think the proposed rule limits some of that flexibility, because state and carrier alike, we're not going to want to see massive disenrollment for a binder payment that just pops up that maybe they weren't aware of. It's certainly concerning on my end.
Yeah, I would just say 100%. I mean, not only you have the withholding of tax credits and the operational issues that us as an exchange would have, but even if a customer wants to comply, wants to do the right thing, communicating what that right thing is in order for them to maintain coverage will be extremely difficult. And just being able to reach those individuals, and also it's kind of unclear that, what if they are crosswalked into another $0 plan? Then that, we have to communicate, like that's another nuance. So I think it's difficult. Like, it makes auto renewal, which is so central to our operations and our success year over year, much more difficult. And then on top of that, it's a very difficult message to give to customers, to tell them what it is that they need to do and how the $5 comes into play, and then when they get it back. Difficult message for sure.
Yeah, and the all stakeholder call that was done yesterday by CISIO, the Rajlin, I forget Rajlin's last name, but Raj basically was explaining that, they'll get the $5 back when they reconcile at the end of the year. The $5 isn't the issue. I don't think the $5 is the thing we're all worried about. It's the loss of coverage for a calendar year because they didn't see that they had a $5 payment that they had to pay. Like, that's the bigger problem.
Anyone else on these provisions? Okay, David, you want to go to the next slide?
Yep. So another big part of the proposed rule that, we find, erodes state flexibility is policies around verifications, specifically on income and special enrollment periods. So first thing is, under Biden era flexibility is, states could apply an automatic 60-day extension to verify income inconsistencies. So once a customer gets to that 90-day reasonable opportunity period to verify their income, we automatically add an extra 60 days to that period for them to come in and and verify their eligibility for tax credits. I guess it's not so much the issue with 90 days, is really kind of the reasoning behind it, because ultimately, whether they come on day 80, day 5, day 85, or day 125, if they're able to tell us that they're eligible for tax credits, it really doesn't matter when it is that they do. But this would eliminate that extension. One kind of, I think, maybe not stealth is the right word, but we've really benefited from another Biden era flexibility to be able to accept self-attestation of income for customers who apply, and we ping IRS to verify their income, and the IRS returns no data. Oftentimes that's because the customer has no credit history. Maybe they haven't been in the United States very long. Maybe they're self-employed. Maybe IRS just isn't up to date with the records. Either way, our ability to say, well, the IRS didn't say your income was different, so we have no evidence to show that you're reporting incorrectly your income. So we're going to take that. The ability to do that has really been a benefit operationally for us, and also has removed burdensome verification requirement for customers who are not going to be privy to back end IRS data pulls. So this would eliminate that option, which we believe will add a considerable number of data matching inconsistencies, or require thousands more customers to need to come back in and verify their income, potentially losing access to tax credits, and then adding operational load on us. In addition, it requires additional verification of household income for those who report income above 100% FPL, but who's reported as under 100% FPL. This was really targeted at non-Medicaid expansion states, but we would have to comply as well, even though there's really no benefit for someone to report a bit more income than they have. They could just go to Medicaid. This would be applied to us as well. And then also, we've had those special enrollment periods that are gated, require pre-enrollment verification, and those that do not. We've worked with our board to establish those requirements based on the needs of our marketplace. We've also added a lot of checks between our system and DHS's system for those losing Medicaid and CHIP to automatically pre-verify. This says no to all of that and would require new enrollments via SEPs, at least 75% of them to be pre-verified before they're allowed to enroll using a special enrollment period for state-based marketplaces. On the plan management side, the upshot is that the calculations are changing in a way that would add significantly to the out-of-pocket maximum and cost sharing and other cost sharing thresholds. And then just kind of also on the eligibility side, it would rescind QHP and APTC eligibility for deferred action for childhood arrivals or DACA recipients. That was another recent change by the Biden administration, updating the definition of lawfully present to include DACA recipients. There's only 4,000 DACA recipients in Pennsylvania, according to U.S. immigration data. So not a huge impact on Pennsylvania. The biggest thing is you're a DACA recipient. You came in and newly enrolled in Penny for 2025. This would require us to terminate that coverage as soon as the rule becomes effective. And that generally not done, but that would be an immediate requirement. So those are really kind of the highlights of the proposed rule. Again, we'll want to open it up to comments or questions.
The only thing I didn't see in your verifications piece is they're looking to tighten the DMI income threshold to 10%. So if what's reported is off base by just 10%, I know that we've used 25% and plus a fixed amount for SIO since 2021, I think. So that certainly is concerning, on top of all the other shorter deadline to enroll, more communications we have to do to pronounce the changes. And now we're going to have an increase in DMIs, which puts workload on every part of the enrollment process for all parties.
Yes, but we've had for several years, we've had our own CMS approved income thresholds, either 40% or $20,000, whichever is lower. So I think that's something we need to go back to kind of better understand the impact on state-based exchanges. But yes, we have our own standard, and which we think strikes the right balance for Pennsylvania. So that's one of those other things under the state flexibility umbrella that we would want to maintain.
Great, thanks, David. And I think some of the driving forces behind the rule that they stated were really around concerning broker enrollments in a select small number of states, contributing to unauthorized enrollments or improper enrollments, and adverse selection concerns. And just wanted to note that they identify, again, a small number of states where they see these issues. Pennsylvania is not one of those. And so it really is applying a lot of rules limiting state flexibility for problems that don't exist here. So really that's going to be a lot of the driving force behind our comments, is that we have managed the program in a way that has not created those issues that they're seeing in other states. And so we should continue to have the flexibility to do so and to do what works best for Pennsylvania. Yeah, non-Medicaid expansion states. Any other questions on the rule before we go to the tax credit contingency planning? Comments or questions? Okay. So next up, we wanted to talk about the enhanced tax credits. As I mentioned, with open enrollment, we've really seen a significant impact on the enhanced tax credits. As a reminder, these are a portion of tax credits that were increased since 2021. So there's the underlying baseline tax credits from the Affordable Care Act that have been available since 2014. And in the past 4 years, consumers have had additional increased tax credits available to them to make their coverage more affordable than ever. And that's really what has helped drive a lot of this enrollment. Those additional tax credits expire at the end of this year. So if Congress does not act, it will have a pretty significant impact on our consumers. Costs will on average increase by 82%. Some will see double, some will see 4 times as much for the ones who are above the income cliff, where they would have all of their tax credits removed. So it's a very concerning matter for us. And it really, in addition to all of the things we just talked through at the regulatory level, this is sort of that broader impact at the congressional level that could additionally decrease enrollment. We estimate to go back to levels before this would be, decrease in enrollment by 30%. So we are contingency planning on a few different fronts. We are trying to think through potential system changes and testing of those if we have to revert the tax credit calculation back to their prior numbers. So, that really would need to happen in the August timeframe. Again, they just extended the budget at the federal level through September. That was sort of seen as a chance to potentially put this on the table because you have both Republicans and Democrats needing to pass that legislation. That did not, come to fruition in this past package. So that might be another opportunity at the end of September. There may be a couple of other vehicles throughout the rest of this year, but that is looking. There's a lot of uncertainty around it, and it does seem, even if they were extended in September, that timing would be very tight. Josh, your point earlier around making sure the insurer notices are lined up with accurate information, even being able to make the changes in our system that quickly would be very challenging, combined with things like a much shorter open enrollment period and all of these other provisions in the proposed rule. It is making up for a very disruptive, I would say, open enrollment coming here. Yes, Karen. But you're mute.
Do we have an estimate on how many people may drop off if the tax credits are dropped?
We are just using, we've never seen a market have premium increases of 82% before. So it's a little hard to predict, honestly, what will happen. just as a matter of simplicity, we've been using the enrollment number of what it was in open enrollment 2021 before the tax credits went into place, which was around 337,000. Would be about 150,000 that would drop off, about a 30% decrease, going from 500 back down to low 300s.
Except that in 2021, Penny was really new. So there was a lot of education on getting people into understanding where to go and how to use the system. So I wouldn't say that it was just tax credit changes, right? There are other
Yeah,
factors in there.
We've also had, Medicaid redetermination since then. It had brought more enrollments over. Now the enhanced tax credits have helped with that because they allow for a $0 premium at those incomes right above Medicaid eligibility. So that has smoothed the path and helped enrollment there. It's just really hard to know kind of what the puts and takes are because we really haven't seen this type of disruption before. And really the estimate comes down to what we're trying to plan for from a budget perspective, because ultimately we'll see what happens and we're going to try to do whatever we can to mitigate that. But where it really comes down to, since our budget is driven by user fees that are based on enrollment, is if, we're really just trying to plan ahead for what our operating new operating world will look like if we see that type of reduction.
Is there any validity in putting together, for example, like other chambers of commerce to do some kind of an action plan for our federal legislators to advocate on this behalf?
Yeah, we would, we are serving an educational role on kind of the impact here, but we would love to have that conversation with you and others to see if there's information we can provide to make sure you have all the resources that would be helpful to have those conversations. Absolutely.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Karen, to add to your point, I was on the Hill, the end of February, and it just seemed like the Penny team and our team were meeting with the same people, like on either side of those meetings. And there's certainly, just from experience, anything that I've asked, Devin's been very helpful. Jennifer's been very helpful in getting us information so that we can talk. And I would also add, if on our end, if we can be helpful at all in those Hill meetings, whether they're virtual or in person, certainly happy to lend that olive branch. However that,
Okay.
Not thinking very well, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're part of a 5-chamber alliance that covers most of South Central PA, and we're planning on doing a DC fly-in, but it's not until September, so it'll be way too close to when the 6 months run out. So,
well, and August is in district, so that might be another thing that you could look at as well.
okay. Thank you. Jolene.
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to, again, thank Devin and the team for help in getting us data and let you know that we have been talking to everybody who will listen in our congressional delegation as we've been talking about our overall concerns with Medicaid. We have a lot at stake from a hospital perspective, but we do include the loss of APTCs in those conversations. So just wanted to let you know that we are doing as much as we can on this part as well, because we see it as part of an even larger problem and threat.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And from our perspective, the more voices saying it, the better. I think that only, different offices listen to different voices. So I think the more consistency, the drumbeat, kind of having people share their perspectives, I think can only help. So yeah, again, whatever we can provide to support those conversations, we are happy to do so. So we also wanted to talk a bit about the communication side of this. So we'll turn it to Chachi. There's sort of two things we just wanted to mention on the communication side. So go ahead, Chachi.
Yeah, in the interest of time, I'll try to be brief, but good seeing you again, Karen. Hope everyone's having a good week. Yeah, got a plan for the the possibility of those of the EPTC going away. So we spent on the external affairs side, we spent a lot of time in 2024 researching the uninsured in Pennsylvania and also our customer base. And what we learned was that they really value the customers really value the free preventative care, the wellness checks, the screenings, the vaccines that come, within their health plan. They do want to learn, they do want to know more, at least the uninsured, about how that plan covers hospitalizations, prescriptions, drugs, and really kind of preventing medical bills or medical debt. But what we learned was, under a majority, under 40% were aware that the plan that they bought has those guaranteed coverage options and the financial protections in them. So we decided that since cost is a little up in the air, that we were going to spend this year emphasizing the value and the quality of the plan that customers are currently receiving. And that way, whenever it comes for auto renewal time, has this bill gone up too much that I need to really kind of evaluate whether or not this makes sense in my life? Am I going to take the risk? That we've spent the year reminding them what is included in their plan, and then also giving them the right questions to ask if they were to go outside of the market. Because if they're getting a plan that's outside of the market, those costs are being cut because other things are being cut. So we want to make sure that we're spending this year reinforcing what that plan has. So each month we're going to be sending emails to customers, reminding them of one specific aspect of their plan that's included, so that they're constantly reminded throughout the year of what's in there. And then getting closer to open enrollment, making sure that they're also aware of, what to ask or what to look for if they were to go outside of the market. So there's that piece of it. And then there's also getting kind of in front of our customers and letting them know that changes are coming. So there's reminding customers that there's a value in the plan, and then also, hey, we want to be the trusted source for health insurance, and you don't gain that trust by just sending an auto renewal notice and an eligibility notice with sticker shock. So we're going to try to mitigate that sticker shock throughout the year with consistent communications. So I'm not sure if it's on this slide or the next one. I think I'll stay right here. Yeah, it's on this one. So we spoke with the board last Wednesday, and we're already getting that language put together for reaching out to current enrollees that changes are coming, or changes are potentially coming. And that message really, again, can't be advocacy, can't be a lobbying side, can't be at least from our legal team, really can't encourage folks to reach out to elected officials. We are taking a strictly educational stance here, but also letting folks know why their potential increases are coming, but mostly just be aware of what's coming down the pike. Read everything that comes from Penny, read every letter, read everything that comes from your insurer, that you are well aware of what could be happening to your premium come 2026. So after talking with the board, we decided that we're going to reach out to them as early as May, and we're going to shoot for a May postcard to be followed either the next month or 2 months later with an enveloped letter that explains a little bit more detail. And again, that postcard and that envelope letter are going to be educational in nature. This is happening. Make sure you're reading all of your materials that come from Penny, any emails, any text messages, anything that we send to your secure inbox or to your personal email. So all of that is going to be supported by website updates, social media messages, FAQ updates, website updates, even potential advertisements once we get closer to open enrollment. So I was hoping that we could have a discussion here with the advisory council of any other ways that you could potentially see. One other part of the reinforcement was making sure that our brokers, assisters, call center reps, and any other stakeholders are ready to answer those questions if that postcard hits mailboxes and they immediately call their broker, like, what's going on here, so that they are fully aware of that too. So with that, is there any other ways, any other communication aspects that have worked for you and your companies, your industry, that you find is helpful to get the word out? And then my other question is, are there any parts within the health insurance plan that have bubbled up to you from customers going, well, yeah, I didn't know that that was included, or that there was surprises within that purchase, or from the customer going, oh yeah, I didn't know that there was say an out-of-pocket max, or I can't be denied because of pre-existing conditions, that sort of thing. So kind of two ways, communication avenues that you see are helpful, and any of the value parts of the plan that have bubbled up your way.
We're at time. Josh, I didn't know if you had looked like you came off mute for a second, if you wanted to share any thoughts, and then we can.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if you guys have any plan of making like a social media kit with images and maybe text for partners that want to, get at their consumer base from their angle. If a broker is able to put something on their Facebook, we can't all have a ChatGPT,
Right.
But if we can have a post that we put out that says, hey, Penny sending you a letter, keep an eye out, just the people that I work with that
Yeah,
are in the loop. I'm sure
that's a great idea. We can try to include that in a stakeholder toolkit. That's a good idea. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, one last question. Do you know when you'll have your draft comment letter ready that you could circulate to us?
So the deadline, I believe, is April 11th. So sorry, I think, Josh, did you ask for the final one or for the draft?
I was fine with the final. We already have ours, but I think she had mentioned the draft.
The draft. Okay. Is there interest in seeing the draft? I mean, we can share that as well. It'll be a pretty tight timeline to turn it around.
Yeah, I mean, we'll take the final. I just need a couple of days so that I can incorporate anything that we missed in that section from yours.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think we could probably try to get something out a couple days ahead of the deadline. That's maybe near final. We'll have to go back and look at our timeline since it's so tight. But yeah, we're happy to share some more of our positioning with you if that would be helpful for the letter that you're working on.
Yep. Thanks so much.
Joshua, you are a wealth of knowledge. Holy cow.
Someone called me wonky and I got offended, and then they said, no, on the Hill, that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
Okay.
Gosh. I have a few things to look up and a few things links that I've kept, and yeah, thank you for all your stuff.
We should at least talk about the FMAP conversation offline at some point, because they're talking about pulling funding for Medicaid that way. And that could be a really big issue.
Joshua, I'd like to actually touch base with you and catch up on some things. I'll send you my calendar link to make an appointment, a meeting. Does that sound good?
Yeah. Next couple of weeks are going to be crazy. I'm going to be in Vegas, Wichita, Kansas, and then Seattle in the beginning of May. But otherwise, I'll find time.
I've got you beat. I'm going to be in South Africa and Zimbabwe.
Nice. Kill it.
Those are some great trips. Yeah, I think on the FMAT, I mean, we're tracking everything on Medicaid really closely. I think we're thinking more holistically of like if there are changes to both programs that could be even more compounded impact on enrollment and the uninsured rate really. I think we're not in a position really to provide a lot of like technical comments or feedback on FMAP things, but we are, I would just note one question we get is like, could Penny or the marketplace compensate for anyone who loses if there's anyone who loses Medicaid if there's changes to Medicaid? And generally that answer is no. I mean, our programs are designed to have separate eligibility, and we pick up where Medicaid leaves off. So that is something that we've been getting to, just in case you all get that similar question. That's generally been our stance, is that there really isn't a way for just to pick up their program or them to pick up ours if people are losing coverage for changes to the program.
All right, are there any other comments or questions? Appreciate all of the interaction today and all of the work that all of you are doing at Penny. Really phenomenal and in a pretty difficult time at the moment. So at this time, I think we are 5 minutes over. I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting of the Pennsylvania Health Insurance Exchange Authority Advisory Council. Nobody wants to leave? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
All motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Thank you all so very much, and we will be in touch.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.